What is up, everybody, and welcome back to the Last Inning Touchdown Podcast, the Lit Podcast. I'm here with my boy Logan. You can find us on Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcasts. Find us on Twitter at Last Inning TD. What is up, Logan? How's it going?
It's going good, man. It's going good. Happy
back with another week. Back with another week. Here we go.
Yes, I've only missed one, so I'm happy to keep that that going.
We're keeping it rolling here. Man, things have got very interesting, and we kind of got to get right into it almost. So MLB had a ton of signings, not to mention some Hall of Fame stuff that happened. So I'm going to run through the signings, and then we can discuss what we feel like we want to discuss. So Andrelton Simmons signs with the Twins. Marcus Semien signs with the Blue Jays. Freddie Galvis signs with the Orioles. JT Realmuto signs with the Phillies. Cesar Hernandez signs with the Indians. Adam Ottavino traded to the Red Sox. Nationals get Brad Hand. Yankees trade for Jameson Taillon. Red Sox sign Enrique Hernandez and Garrett Richards. Padres sign Jurickson Profar. The Marlins sign Anthony Bass. And the Astros sign Jason Castro. Boom! That's a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff going on. I have to say, the Marlins did something.
I'm proud. They're growing up.
It doesn't really count, though. It's Anthony Bass. So, actually, I got a funny little story for you about Anthony Bass.
Okay.
Not real. I don't know. It's amusing to me. So, I'm playing MLB The Show with my stepbrother one time. And this is back when the Padres were bad. And I said, I'm going to rebuild the Padres. And so I'm looking through their roster, and James says, well, you can't trade Anthony Bass. He's the face of the franchise. Like, completely joking. Like, saying that's the new face of my franchise, Anthony Bass. And now the Marlins have signed Anthony Bass. So that's your irrelevant story of the day.
Relevant story of the day.
But
that's the old, what's the temperature going to be like when they play?
Hey, there you go. You love it. Everything's relevant here at some point. But yeah, there's definitely some interesting stuff there. I was definitely interested to see JT Realmuto re-sign with the Phillies, and man's got paid. That man's got paid. I believe it's like a $23 million average.
Yeah.
So that's some substantial money for a catcher there. Not to mention the fact that, it was kind of teeter-tottering when were the Phillies actually going to do something. And they did something by bringing back their something.
I can guarantee Realmuto asked for just way too much, or way too many years. I can guarantee it was going to be the years more than the money, but
right.
Because I was thinking he wanted something around like 8 for like 200 or like 180 or something like that. And it's like, you're a 31-year-old catcher, you're not going to get 8 years. And so I think the market just died. Because everyone's like, okay, we like him, but not that much, all right? Like, let's.
Well, yeah, and I think that he saw like a lot of the other catchers coming off the board too, and the places he could go started getting limited too, which works as a disadvantage to him because it's like, yeah, I'm the only one still available, but yeah, the teams that really wanted me are not really wanting.
How many people are going to give me $100 million?
Right. So. Yeah. So I'm trying to. So I thought another one that I thought was kind of. There's quite a few things here that are a little bit interesting. I guess the next biggest thing on there is that Marcus Semien with the Blue Jays. I mean, the Blue Jays are just.
I love it.
The Blue Jays are sitting there saying, we have no idea where we're playing baseball, but gosh dang, are we going to be good where we play?
Yeah, we're going to have players.
Wherever we play, we're going to be good. Wherever we play, we're going to be good. So
I think that is the most intriguing signing of the week because we know the Phillies suck. I don't care if they have JT Realmuto or not. They suck. He's been there for years. They've had better rosters, and they consistently still suck. So I think Semien going to the Blue Jays, and they're like, dude, you're playing second. All of a sudden, you got to realize Semien in 2019 had the second highest WAR in baseball, I think. I mean, do I think he's a freak of nature?
He was like third in MVP voting last year.
Exactly. So it's like, do I think he's a freak of nature? No, but I do think he's undervalued. Yeah, the fact that he only got a 1-year deal is kind of really surprising to me. And I think it's great because, I mean, the Blue Jays got a veteran guy to play center in George Springer, to lead a young club, a veteran guy that's got a questionable past, though. And then they have Semien, a guy who's also been playing in the postseason, never passed the first round, but he's been playing. And, it's just they're adding a couple guys in areas they needed. And I thought the Blue Jays were going to go after a guy like Colton Wong, but I think Semien really
Trumps
fits their
that,
style in the AL East better. I mean, I think Wong different styles, but what they are going for in the AL East, Semien definitely gives them a bigger boost into what they have to do out there compared to like other divisions.
Right. Yeah, I
So
definitely agree. I mean, anytime you add a guy who, I mean, if he's third in MVP voting, you're basically saying like he's top 3 players in the league, like, and they just signed him, like, to add to the already stacked team they're putting together out there.
they did say they're pretty much done though. Like, so there's not. There's. I mean,
oh no.
well, no. Like some people are still saying they're going
Right.
to go get Bauer or something, or like another big name as like a pitcher. And they said the bulk of their work is done, so they'll just fill the roster with a bullpen guy, that had like a 4.2. They're not going to go out and like go get a big bullpen guy or go get, Trevor Bauer or even another, decent starter or trade for someone. They said the bulk of their work is done. It's going to just probably be roster filling from here on out, which makes sense because they don't want to bench their young guys who are clearly trying to be like budding into stars. And they got their center fielder. They have a 1-year second baseman. No such thing as a bad 1-year deal, says the other guy in this podcast, and I agree. So I mean, they've done what they needed to do, and they've got Ryu at the top. So
yeah, I think that team just really solidified themselves as we're going all in here, and I mean, not that was really up into question, but I think that Semien's a guy who's a veteran too. He's been around where they've got a lot of young players, so adding that experience, like you mentioned, he's been on several teams that have made the playoffs. So he's got some experience to bring to that young staff, kind of show them, this is how you do if you want to stay in the major leagues. I mean, I'm not saying he's old by any means, but he knows what he's doing. He's been around.
And also the Blue Jays aren't like a team that like never makes the postseason. This isn't Baltimore that we're talking about. Right. So the Blue Jays know what they're doing. I mean, with the Jose Bautista years and stuff like that, like this is a team that knows how to make the postseason. They've done it in the past. I mean, do they have a lot of the same players? No, but they know how to, like, the front office and the coaching staff knows how to pull this off. So
here's my question. I just thought
isn't
of this.
Like a surprise.
How heartbreaking is it for Toronto that they're putting together this stacked team and Toronto is not even going to let them play in their own city? I mean, if they make the playoffs and they make a push into the playoffs, is Toronto going to be like, oh yeah, let's open up? Like, if they're in the World Series, is Toronto like, oh yeah, you guys can come play now? Like, it just, I don't know. It just seems kind of interesting that if they're picking somewhere that's not in Toronto to play, that kind of sucks for the city, who wants to support their own team if they're very successful this year and they don't get to play in front of their real fans.
Well, we don't know if anyone's going to be playing in front of their real fans, right? And
I would imagine they will be, though, because a lot of other sports have somebody in the seats.
I agree. I think cities are going to start opening. I mean, not cities, but like stadiums are going to open up a little bit. But yeah, I mean, like I said, it's not like, I mean, I'd be pissed as a Cardinal fan, obviously, if all of a sudden the Cardinals were making these signings and I couldn't show up. But it's like the Blue Jays fans have been there before. They supported them. I mean, that Jose Bautista home run is something that's going to be around, just like the David Freese home run in St. Louis. I mean, even though it just kind of won a playoffs like the first round series, Blue Jays fans know the postseason. All right, like they had a couple down years. I mean, they rebuilt with like some of the best young talent in baseball. So this is a team that's going to be around. They'll be okay. I'm not. Like I said, this isn't like a Kansas City Royals where they had their 2 or 3 year window, or the Miami Marlins who are running into a window here where if they're really going to learn that they're just never going to spend money, then teams like that and like Pittsburgh, where when Pittsburgh was making the postseason, they only have these small windows. Toronto's a team that they'll make the postseason. They're going to be there. Competitive.
But it also sucks though for a team like Toronto because Toronto hasn't won a World Series since '93.
Team that wins the offseason always sucks, or never goes up to expectations. So they're not going to be good anyway because they won the offseason.
Well, I mean, the Padres were pretty dang good this last year, so they sucked the first year of it. But but what I'm getting at here though is if Toronto is not playing in front of their own fans and they were a playoff team and just added to it. It's a lot of times what you just said.
I forget they made the playoffs.
A lot of times what you're saying applies to teams that weren't good and then they added pieces. This team was already good and then they added more pieces. And so I'm imagining that obviously Toronto is building this team with the intentions of winning a World Series. Like that's what they're trying to do, obviously. Yeah. But it just sucks because like Toronto hasn't seen a World Series since '93. And they could potentially make it to the World Series this year and not be in front of their fans in Toronto. That could just suck.
I mean,
it's
good they're in the AL.
It's one thing like last year when nobody was allowed. But next year, if teams are starting to allow people into their seats and allowed into their stadiums, you know, and then Toronto's playing in New York or wherever the heck they might end up playing now. I mean, I don't know. I've heard Florida. I don't know, all kinds of crazy places. So it's like if they aren't playing in front of Toronto, that's really just it kind of sucks. It just sucks.
It will 100% be horrible. But they're a team that makes the postseason. It's not like it. Like I said, in 2014, 2015, you know, Kansas City's garbage for 30 years, and all of a sudden they make the postseason 2 years in a row. Like that, it's not like one of those scenarios. I mean, it's gonna suck regardless. I mean, regardless of even if you're playing in your home, like I mean, there's gonna be like California. I mean, they might not have a fan in their stadium the whole year, right? So I mean, even for teams like the Dodgers and stuff, I mean, it's gonna be brutal because California isn't messing around, and so teams like the Dodgers and Angels and Giants and Oakland, who doesn't show up anyway, but I mean, it's going to suck for those teams too. So, I mean, it is brutal. I mean, because they're not even playing there. I don't know. Do you still get blacklisted? Is it still going to be on your regular television? That would be kind of what I'm concerned about the most.
Yeah, I would imagine they make sure that people can watch those games somehow.
Yeah. Or they're really just going to start. Then they're going to be like, well, we got to trade all these guys. We literally made $0 this year.
So somebody that I was a little interested in, and it was kind of a deal that was a nothing deal, was Adam Ottavino going from the Yankees to the Red Sox. Yeah. He had a rough 2020, but yeah. I mean, he was known as a pretty good reliever, and they literally traded him for nothing. Like they got. I know, it just seems odd that the Yankees are playing a payroll trade there. Especially to the Red Sox.
Yeah.
You know, like what world are the Yankees dumping someone on the Red Sox?
Well, the Red Sox suck. They have the money to spend to act like they're doing something, right? That's kind of like what you said the Cardinals do, which is correct, where they kind of act like they do something to like cause excitement. And I know a bullpen guy's not that way, but they're literally trying to dump money because of how much money they're spending on their offense. And you know, if the guy's not going to be that good anyway, I know he had a rough shortened season, so you know, who cares? The Yankees are kind of rebuilding like the Dodgers did, where it seems like everyone they call up is just good.
Yeah, another one that I thought was interesting is Brad Hand going to the Nationals, because one of the Nationals' biggest weaknesses has been bullpen.
Yeah.
And so
when they won the World Series, they had like it was the worst bullpen ever that made the postseason when they won the World Series, something like that. I mean, it was horrendous.
Right. So
they actually pitched really well in the postseason, though.
Right. That's a solid signing for them as well.
Oh, huge.
The one that I thought was interesting was the Padres signing Jurickson Profar. Like, the Padres already have too many players. They already have too many good players. And I know Jurickson Profar, like, he's not... I don't know. I think Jurickson Profar is, like, a overrated, not good player. Like, I don't think anyone's like saying like he's the best player in the world, but I feel like people act like he plays a lot better than he does. But I just don't really understand, what did the Padres even need him for? Like, they've already got more infielders than they know what to do with. Like, I don't know. It's just an odd signing to me. I mean, they paid him a good amount of money too to be a bench player.
Did they? How much did they pay him?
3 years, $21 million.
Holy crap, did they really?
Yeah.
They gave him a 3-year deal. You're telling me all these guys are getting 1-year deals and Jurickson Profar got 3?
I mean, he batted .278 last year, but I'm pretty sure he's like a career 200 hitter tops.
He's a career .238.
That's a lot higher than I expected, honestly. But yeah, I don't know. I just thought that was interesting.
With a 318.
I mean, they've already got players that they don't have positions for.
I mean, they have. I mean, they have their infield is set, and it's not questioned set. Their second baseman is set. Hosmer's making a boatload, playing very good first base, and their left side of the infield might be the best left side of the infield in the world. So I mean, yeah, you're right. What are they doing?
Yeah, I don't know.
I guess he's just going to be super utility. I guess.
Yeah, I mean unless the Padres
have a super utility guy.
I mean, what's that?
Because it was Greg Garcia, so this is an upgrade from Greg Garcia, but you're also paying him what, like $5 million more a year than you were paying that guy. So I mean, hopefully it's worth it. He is 27, so.
Yeah, I don't know. It's very odd. I mean, my thought would be that I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I really don't understand the signing all that much, unless the Padres are just saying, you know what, let's prepare just in case a DH is a thing.
I mean, DH, and you have a guy who can play 4 infield positions.
Yeah, I mean, so maybe that's their thought is that if the worst case scenario is he's a super utility. Best case scenario, we let him play some field and DH some other people. Maybe, I don't know.
And then like the worst case scenario for them is someone gets hurt, and you have a guy who can still play every day who's done it before.
Yeah, so I mean, I
really
cool.
don't know what their bench looks like to make like odd. The best. I feel like, yeah, I agree. I think it's a good signing. With the exception of 3 and 21. That seems like a lot.
I mean, the one thing is with that deal though is he's 27, so they're literally signing him through his prime and then saying.
Well, the thing is, he's about to be. Yeah, he's turning 28. Yeah, he's 27. He's turning 28 in a couple days.
They're gonna get him his prime and then say, "See you later."
28, 29, and 30.
The other trade that's a little bit, or the other, well, it is a trade, but. I guess we weren't really talking about trade, so it's not really the other trade. But the trade that I thought was kind of interesting is Jameson Taillon going to the Yankees. And
that was a move for Cole.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that Taillon is like some super pitcher, but truthfully, honestly, it seems like every pitcher that leaves the Pirates becomes a stud. So, I mean,
we're gonna learn.
Maybe the Yankees are
we are both. Here. I know Taillon got traded with the endorsement of his good buddy Garrett Cole. They're such good buddies that they were already together when the trade happened. Like, I guess they're like really good friends and live really close by because they were literally in the same house when the trade was announced. And
interesting. I didn't know that.
And we're both big believers in Musgrove, right? The one didn't he just get traded to
the Padres? Yeah,
to the Padres. And I believe we're both believers in him, so we're really going to see if everyone, like literally everyone who leaves Pittsburgh, just goes and.
Well, it's also interesting because Taillon had a good 2018.
Yeah.
And then had a not so great shortened season.
Was Cole there in 2018? No, Cole was there in 2017.
It sounds right. Cole might have been traded in 2018.
Well, I believe Cole in 2018 played the whole year for Houston. Then 2019 played the whole year for Houston. Then 2020 played the whole year for the New York Yankees. I believe that's what happened.
Astros trade January 13th, 2018. The Astros trade for Cole.
Yeah, so and then he blew up the world, and the NL Central got to live without him. Thank God.
Yeah, I don't know. That'll be interesting though. I mean, I think we mentioned this slightly before though. Like, the Yankees don't need you to be a great pitcher. They just need you to go out there and throw some competitive innings. Throw competitive innings, and they're going to score for you. So
they're going to score one.
I mean,
I still can't believe that he didn't want to sign young Garrett Cole. That blows my mind.
Yeah, so I think that'll be an interesting one to follow too. And I don't think the Pirates really got anything back for him either. It's just interesting because it seems like in today's age
they dumped him. They dumped him for
well, that's what I'm saying. In today's age, you usually ask for something, even if your pitcher's not that great. You usually get something back. I mean, Taillon was a first-round pick at one point, wasn't he?
Oh, no, I thought you were talking about Cole.
Well, yeah, I'm talking about Taillon right now, but I mean, I know they got rid of Cole for nothing too. I mean, I don't know. The Pirates are just known for. I don't know, giving.
And the thing with the Pirates is they're a team that has to hit on those trades.
Yeah, and I also don't really understand because I don't think Taillon was even making very much money, so I don't really understand why they moved him. I mean, I get that they have a financial struggle, but it's like at some point, you can't get rid of everybody, can you?
Well, they're going to get. They're the team I think is the biggest in trouble of getting in trouble.
Oh yeah,
or not spending money. I believe
they've got nothing going. I mean,
yeah,
they have nobody on that team. I don't even.
Yeah,
I literally
$2.25 million.
Yeah, I couldn't even tell you who's like going to play on that team this year. I don't even think they can tell you. I mean, it's going to be 2021 is going to be a 162 game spring training for the Pirates this year.
Tucker. That's all I got. Is Trevor Williams still there?
Who?
Isn't that his name, Trevor Williams? I actually like him. I think he's a good pitch. I think he's a good pitcher. He's a free agent. I like him.
I like him.
I do. Well, to be fair, I mean, everybody who pitched against the Cardinals last year blew him out. Yeah, he had a 6 ERA, but he dominated the Cardinals in both starts. So,
maybe the Cardinals should sign him.
Yeah, the Cardinals should sign him, and then all of a sudden,
guess what? Trevor Williams was drafted by the Marlins.
Yeah, I see that. Also, the Cardinals need to sign him and turn him into.
I swear to God, every major leaguer has played for the Marlins at some point.
Every average to mediocre MLBer has played for the Marlins at some point.
Relax. There's a lot of studs that have played for the Marlins.
No, I know, but like when you talk about literally everybody, it's all average or below average players, and then you have your superstars.
Like there's so many superstars that ran through Miami.
Team. Well, yeah, they built a freaking juggernaut, and then their ace decided to hit a rock, and it struggled, and then they built it, and then they just dumped it.
Yeah, you love to see it.
Right before Christian Yelich took over the world.
Hey, that's all right. Oh man, yeah, I don't know. So I know you felt pretty strongly on this, so I guess we'll just go into it. The Hall of Fame issue that happened. So, I mean, you want to get? if you just want to get on your soapbox here, you can go for it. I'm all ears.
What he's talking about, and I believe anybody who watches any sport can agree to this. I don't care about who got voted in, who got voted out right now. That's fine.
So for the note, nobody made it. Nobody made it for
exactly.
2021.
For anyone who doesn't know, the Hall of Fame election had nobody make it, and that's not what I'm complaining about. I mean, is it weird that no one made it? Yeah, the world's in a really weird spot of we're convinced to not let any, steroid guys in, even though Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire saved baseball. We're in this thing to not let any of them in, and that's fine. It's either we let none of them in or all of them in. That's kind of how I see it. But my thing is that there are 14 ballots that were left blank, and I think it's without question then the MLB should do the right thing and cut all those guys out of baseball and do the right thing, because no matter what, you can say leave all those blank, right? But you're telling me there was nobody else. I know you don't have to fill out all 10 slots because if you don't believe in steroids, guess what? You're not going to fill out all 10 slots because there's a lot of steroid guys on that list. But to have 14 blank ballots, which really only would have affected one player, I believe. I think Kurt Schilling, if it went like 13 for 14, would have made it. But that's besides the point. What I'm saying is I think any sports fan across any sport, if you have a chance to vote for the Hall of Fame with every single player, that besides the ones that are in the Hall of Fame available that have retired, you're telling me no one deserves. Nobody. Not a single person. And that blows my mind that you didn't watch a guy dominate third base who is, I'm not saying that Scott Rowland needs to be in, but as a biased Cardinals fan, the advanced stats are very much just skyrocketing Scott Rowland to the Hall of Fame. In 2 years, that guy will be a Hall of Famer because, he's going up. He went up 19% this year because these advanced stats are really going, man, this guy really was a defensive juggernaut. And he had one of the second greatest, one of the greatest third base seasons ever played. Stuff like that. But to really just throw nobody on the list. Not a Scott Rowland, not a Billy Wagner, not anybody.
I think a guy like Scott Rowland is hurt because he played during the steroid era. Like, he only hit 316 career home runs. Well, he played in an era where everybody hit 500, so everyone looks at it and go, well, geez, he wasn't anything then. Like, but
now, his advanced stats, and even he said this,
fair.
are really boosting him into a Hall of Fame career because of what his advanced stats and defensive stats, especially his advanced defensive stats, have done. And he's said it on like a Cardinals podcast, or not a Cardinals podcast, like a Cardinals radio show recently. And that's just the only one I can really bring up to have more in depth is the Cardinals ones, because obviously that's what I follow the most. But the fact that you have guys that are somehow qualified to vote for the Hall of Fame think nobody is worthy of it when you're just a journalist and you're telling me these guys have spent their entire lives working and preparing, and not saying the journalists haven't spent their entire lives working and preparing, but just nobody. There's no one good enough out of every player.
You can check a box for it. Just say, hey, look, I checked one.
It's just weird to me
Like
because
you purposely made a statement by picking no
yeah,
one.
you made a statement to be a complete and utter question mark. I'll just leave it at that. And it's just embarrassing to me. In any sport, if there's a blank ballot, you should honestly, what they could do is they could just cut it from the percentage. So all of a sudden it's like, okay, there were 403 ballots, I believe is what it was. All of a sudden it's like, oh no, there wasn't. There was 389 ballots. Let's vote the percentages off that. Because it's just an embarrassment, in my opinion. It's just an absolute embarrassment. And do I care that no one got voted in? No. Like if those guys all or something, it's just crazy to me. And I know that, oh, Logan, you're stating your opinion, they're stating theirs. No, they're not. They're trying to cause controversy. They're trying to be bitches. They're trying to get viewers on this stuff. And it's just really stupid. It had nothing to do with the sport they care about. It. They care about the sport just as much as the commissioner does, and he doesn't care at all.
Yeah, and then on that same note, I believe didn't Kurt Schilling write a letter basically saying he doesn't want to be in the Hall of Fame? Then, like he literally wrote a letter.
He wants off the ballot. He doesn't because I believe this is his 10th year of eligibility, and he wants out. And I think Kurt Schilling is the least deserving. I think doesn't he have the most questionable past as well?
He just said stuff on social media. That's like his issue is that he said
stuff
I
know. On social media. He said some questionable things. Yeah, he said some questionable things and. Did steroids, but the questionable things I think hurt because I also believe that the Hall of Fame in most sports also has like a small etiquette thing. I know not to be the greatest human, but don't be blatantly, like have major problems and you should be okay. And I think a lot of Hall of Fames are broken. I mean, the fact that Terrell Owens wasn't a first ballot Hall of Famer in the NFL, I mean,
which is interesting too, because the NFL lets everybody in. So it's
exactly. And the fact
how
do
you make a real great
of all time?
Yeah, it's like if you're going to let everyone in, then you need the real greats to make it in on the first. But that's man. But
like that.
I get it.
I didn't for football, but
right.
I think all Hall of Fames are weird. Yeah, you're right. Football lets everyone in because the game changes. So now you have below average quarterbacks now in the league are putting up, some of the greatest numbers ever for previous generations. So
yeah,
it's really
it's just, and really I think that's where I respect baseball because they've always said like we want baseball to be exclusive and prestigious. Like there's a lot of people like an Andrew Jones, absolute monster, one of the greatest defensive center fielders, one of the best center fielders of all too. But truthfully, he arguably is Hall of the really, really, really good. Like he's not. I don't know. I remember watching him play, and you weren't really thinking, "Oh, we're watching a Hall of Famer." You're watching someone who's really good, is what you're watching. When you watched Pujols, you said, "I'm watching a Hall of Famer." When you watched Andrew Jones, you said, "Wow, he's really good." It's different. You just right now you're watching Mike Trout, the Hall of Famer. You know it. There's no question about it.
Yep.
But Andrew Jones or someone like that, I mean, that would just happen to be the argument that I had seen on social media. Players like that, I don't know that they really, truly are Hall of Famers. And it's hard. It is. It's really hard. I almost sneezed there. To judge who would have been looked at as great players when they were playing against people that were playing steroids out of their mind. And that's what's tough too, is it's hard to say but then at the same time, who's to say that Andrew Jones wasn't under the table taking steroids and just never got called out for it? That's the tough part about the whole era. And that's where it's really difficult in general. So I don't envy trying to vote for these people. Cause if you play, that's what's weird is because you could say that if Andrew Jones would have played 10 years earlier, you may have watched him and said, wow, this is a Hall of Famer. Yep. But it's hard to say because what he played against, you thought he's really good, but you didn't think Hall of Fame.
It's crazy. Andrew Jones went up 15%. Todd Helton went up 16%. Scott Rowland went up almost 20%.
And those are all studs. All those guys were studs.
Exactly. And so here's a question to go on the Hall of Fame voting. Just a small question.
This will probably be our last little bit here for baseball. So
yeah,
go for
David Ortiz.
Hey, Ortiz
on the ballot. Next year. So you have A-Rod and David Ortiz are the big two.
Okay.
But David
Neither
Ortiz...
one of them make it. They both tested positive.
Say, A-Rod, David Ortiz never tested positive. He was a part of the 2003 results that were never official or counted towards the positive era. It was just the talked about. Does that mean people won't think about it when they're voting? I mean, obviously they will. But what do you, so like he was one of those guys, exactly what I'm saying. He was one of those guys that never has a positive test. He went 2004 to 2018 with no positives, right? Or 20, yeah, I think it was 2018. I don't know. With no positives. But in 2003, there was this question mark because of this report. But then there was a lot of things that some of these names are wrong, some of these names are right, and David Ortiz was on that list. I personally, as someone, if you can't prove it, and he has a 14-year track record, unlike a lot of those guys, is this man also played a long time after, had a pretty long track record of being pretty damn good at baseball, meant a lot for baseball. And if you think of baseball from
and that's the thing is that even if he tested positive in 03, well, they started testing. And he had the next 4 seasons he played out of his mind. Not to mention the great seasons he still had after that.
Like, exactly. And then in 2004, they started testing in 2003 and 2004 they started going at people and starting to, suspend them and stuff like that. And it's just what he meant to baseball, to me, I think he's in, but I know that he does have the question mark. But if someone were to prove that it'd be obvious that he took steroids, then maybe I could change that. But it depends on if I think I should just let all steroids in the Hall of Fame or not. I've been a big thing of that cheating is stupid. At the same time, the older I've gotten, the more I see that, two behemoths saved the sport of baseball.
Not to mention the fact that no one can truly understand what it was like for these top athletes when you're basically saying, do you want to keep playing this sport or not? Because this is your choice. And that was the choice for a lot of people, because a lot of people have said that the reason they started steroids was because of injuries. They weren't trying to get massive. Because steroids wasn't even the initial use. The initial use was not to get stronger. It was recovery. And then people realized they got a lot stronger while doing it. But
it didn't change the fact that Mark McGwire could barrel up a 98-mile-an-hour baseball.
Right. For what you're saying with David Ortiz, though, I'm definitely siding with you here. But I do think I think his struggles go down to the fact that, when you said his name, I initially went right to that report of him being on steroids. But he did. He hit 30 home runs for the rest of his career, pretty much.
His last season, he was a stud. He hit 318 or something like that.
Yeah, and more impressively, stole 2 bases. And not a small guy. But David Ortiz was a personality. He was fun. Baseball was fun for him, and baseball was great watching him. He had the big moment in his career with the playoff home runs and
the grand slam.
He
had that speech after the
only thing that he really is lacking is his own personal accolades.
Mm-hmm.
He's got the 10-time All-Star, the 7 Silver Sluggers, but he never was an MVP. He was a World Series MVP and an ALCS MVP, but he was always 5th in MVP, 4th in MVP, 2nd in MVP, 3rd, 4th, 10th. He never actually won it.
One big one.
But he was good for so long. I don't see how you don't. And the man's took a bullet. The man's took a bullet and lived.
But like I said, the thing with me is what he meant for baseball and what he meant for Boston.
Yeah, he was
just as an entire city, just not just for baseball in Boston, but just keeping them together after what happened. And then they went on that World Series run, and he was a freak of nature. And I swear he hit 500 against the Cardinals in that 2013 World Series. Dude was a cheat code. He was literally playing MLB 2004 Slugfest and got on fire. And then he was coming to the NL playing first base, just dominating. And I'm just like, this guy's a freak. But yeah, I don't know. I don't like the Boston Red Sox because they beat the Cardinals in 2 World Series, but I like the Boston Red Sox and how they did things, and
you respect them.
Yeah, and I love how diehard Boston fans are. I know it's annoying and people don't like them, but at the same time, why can you
how can you hate people?
I'm allowed
to.
It's awesome it's awesome when they're diehard all the time. I have these neighboring Kansas City fans of sports, of the Royals and the Chiefs. And the Chiefs are freaks of natures, and I love their players. But these guys act like they're the biggest Royals fans ever, but no one showed up to games before they were even remotely, even a quarterly good. I mean,
people aren't showing up now.
Even when the team was making the playoffs, they weren't selling out of like a 30,000 person stadium. And I'm not saying like, oh, that's easy. Like Kansas City is considered to be this big growing, city in America, but like they can't even do that. I understand football; they've always been big football fans, but now all of a sudden there's a lot more of them, which is understandable when you have a guy like Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid running the show, but like Boston, they're always these cocky, arrogant people all the time if they're good or bad. And I respect that over the bandwagon fans of a lot of other cities. And I'd consider St. Louis kind of one of those cocky fans too, because they just only have 2 sports, which helps them. So people they just obsess over those. And but yeah, I actually enjoy Boston and their fan base of being cocky, arrogant, some bitches. And
it's really tough for you, especially. And don't get me wrong, I've got a little bit of that bad blood due to the fact that I'm a Blues fan. The St. Louis and Boston in every sport has had some bad blood. I mean, even the Rams and Patriots. I mean, it's Rams, like the Boston and St. Louis have just always butted heads in every sport.
In the title, man, and thank God the Blues won because Boston was just smoking us up until then. When the Patriots cheated to win the Super Bowl, fact, whatever, opinion-based fact. He turned into the GOAT, whatever, fact. They had the GOAT kicker at the time. I don't care. They cheated. Burn the film. It's not. Blah blah blah. Anyways, and then obviously the absolute annihilation that the 2004 World Series was when the 105 win Cardinals got absolutely slaughtered by a team that just came back down 3-0 to the Yankees. So that was not fun. And then in 2013, and a 4-2 win for the Red Sox, where their 4 wins were blowouts and the 2 wins were for the Cardinals were close games. And then the Blues finally beat the Boston Curse by kicking the Bruins right in the mouth and going into their home for Game 7 and winning. But yeah, but like I said, just like you said, like it's hard because Boston's so good, but I actually like what they do. And David Ortiz
is so much to baseball.
Period.
Yeah, it's got
not just. I mean, Boston obviously. He'll be he's an immortal there. The dude is a freak, and I love that for them. I love when I see people that are that good for the sport and other sports and just have that voice. Kobe did it, and David Ortiz did it, and I love it. So, but I know it's the last point.
That's
kind of ran a little longer.
It's a good point, though. That's a good point.
Yeah, so I'm in. David Freese is in. David Freese. David Ortiz.
David Freese.
I have a David Freese thing right there. I looked up. David Freese is not that good.
All right, so we're going to move on to the NFL here on the Last Inning Touchdown podcast, the Lit Podcast. We're getting fired up for football, I guess. Super Bowl. You can find us on Twitter at Last Inning TD. We're on Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcasts, a little bit of everything. Football. Where to start? We
don't really need to talk about the Super Bowl yet, right? But we can talk about the games before.
We can also talk about Mr. Chad Wheeler if we'd like. All right, so yeah, just Mr. Chad Wheeler. This is just a story that's popping right now. So I guess we should basically psychopath tried to kill his girlfriend or whatever.
Strangled her so she was unconscious. Yeah, it's a pretty wicked story. I don't really know what to talk about. Dude's an absolute psychopath.
Yeah, I don't know that much about it either. It's just like it's huge right now that this guy tried to do it, and I don't know. There's people trying to say that nobody cares, but like I definitely think a lot of people care. It's just it didn't.
Yeah, I know.
It wasn't
a lot of
the big thing is I have no idea who Chad Wheeler is, so it's like
I think he's a backup offensive lineman.
That's kind of the reason why it's not massive news is because nobody knows who he is, but it's still a big deal. I hope she's okay. Chad Wheeler, I don't know what your problem is. Hopefully you get help. All right.
Yeah. In a locked room.
Yeah, well, it is what it is. Do we want to talk about playoffs or do we want to talk about?
We can talk about the previous game. We don't need to talk about the upcoming game because we got 2 weeks of that. We can talk about.
So there's also the little rumor going around that the Rams were looking to trade Jared Goff.
Oh, that's been a rumor for a long time, but now it looks like they're going for it.
But it's interesting that they're saying that this year because I saw a image online of basically like 15 quarterbacks that could possibly be somewhere else next year. It just doesn't really seem like the offseason to say, oh, let's try and trade Jared Goff when there's all these other options out there. So it's...
Yeah, but Goff is a little, I don't know, better than most of those guys or like has more accomplished than most of those guys. Obviously, he has proven that he hasn't been that good the last couple of years, but the man's got a Super Bowl start.
Yeah.
And and some good seasons in the past. While some of these guys are, you got Mitchell and Marcus are both free agents, but Mitch Trubisky and Marcus Mariota, but I mean, they've never really had good seasons.
Oh, I mean,
Carson Wentz is on the market, and that guy's had one good season. Jared Goff, I believe, has actually had
I've heard things about Aaron Rodgers being available to go other places. I doubt he will, but I keep hearing
I think Aaron Rodgers did that just for fun.
He's
like, we'll see what we're going to do.
But I've heard he could be other places.
He was on the Pat McAfee podcast saying, he's like, yeah, I'm just going to, I have no question that I'll be back in Green Bay. I think he just said,
and I think Green Bay said the same thing too. Is that they basically said we're not stupid. He'll be back next year.
Yeah, and he's also saying this is even on the. He just said that
But if I'm looking to trade for Jared Goff or Deshaun Watson, it's Deshaun Watson all day.
Same time, what can you afford? Rams can't afford anybody, right?
The question is, if you're looking to trade and your options are Jared Goff or Matt Stafford, I like Matt Stafford better.
Yeah, you really have to look at
that's why I don't. That's what's tough for me is that if the Rams are trying to trade him, I don't know. I just don't think that this is the right season to do it. You're not going to get anything for him. I don't think.
The problem,
we'll see.
The problem is obviously the salary cap and the fact that trading these guys that have big contracts also still counts towards cap hits for the team they're trading.
Right.
But Jared Goff isn't like a Wentz or a Trubisky. This guy's got a large sum of money still coming to him, a massive chunk of money still coming to him. So it's going to be a lot. Just like you said, it's going to be impossible to move him if they're trying to get something because they're going to have to. This guy's got 4. How many years do you have left? I think 4 left of $120 million contract. He's got
But let's be honest, we all want to see. We all want to see the Rams have to choke on that contract and suffer because they left St. Louis. So
I do.
We hope they get screwed by that contract like no other. So
yeah, I think they're going to be.
I hope that COVID hurt them so bad that they're choking all over Jared Goff.
I can tell you that they're moving. They're just making bank.
Well, they're not making bank because nobody was there, So they just paid for that whole new stadium, and there's nothing happening there.
Doesn't even matter though.
I think it does do a point, but
Los Angeles, they'll make it back in.
Well, yeah, they'll make it back
in half a season.
But conference championship games, Tampa Bay, Tom Brady beating the Packers, and the Chiefs came out on top on the Bills. I thought it was interesting that. But I didn't at the same time. I'm not at all surprised. But, Tom Brady threw 3 picks, but was still good enough to win. And I think that's how a lot of Tom Brady's career has always been. A lot of his career has been, I'm not the craziest stat sheet, but I'm always enough to win. And that's kind of always, yes, he's had his good seasons. Yes, he's had his good games. Don't get me wrong. But the basis of Tom Brady is I'm always good enough to win the game, and I'm not going to be the reason you lost. And so even with his 3 interceptions, he still wins. And I saw a post. It was Tom Brady throws 3 interceptions in the conference championship game. The last quarterback to do that and win was Tom Brady. So
when did that happen?
With the Patriots at some point, he won with a conference championship with 3 interceptions. And then he just did it again with Tampa Bay. So
that's crazy. I would assume that was Russell Wilson because Russell Wilson threw 4 picks in that one half against Green Bay. Threw 4 picks in a single half and then went to the Super Bowl.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. So
it does happen. It does happen. But what are our thoughts on that Tampa Bay Green Bay game? Any thoughts? I'm a little bit surprised it was as close as it was. Honestly. I thought Tampa Bay's defense was going to be better than that. I know Aaron Rodgers and the Packers are great and all, but the Packers, as we've said, didn't play the best against good teams this year. So I was a little bit surprised that Tampa Bay's defense didn't play better than they did, but I
don't even remember who I picked because
we picked the same people. We both picked Tampa Bay, and then we both picked the Bills.
The Bills, yeah, okay. So that's what I thought I did. But I couldn't remember. So I picked Tampa, and I thought they played okay. Tom Brady had a bad pass that tipped off the fingertips of Mike Evans because he threw too high. And too high to a 6'4" guy is impressive. And tipped off his fingertips for a bad pick. He threw a jump ball in 1v1 coverage where Mike Evans literally just never saw the football, which some people thought was like a horrible play, but like
Bunch
Mike
of people
Evans
were
had,
saying like Mike Evans is playing for the other team, and
yeah, like Mike Evans, like some people said it was a horrible play by Tom Brady, some people saying it was a horrible play by Mike Evans. I mean, it's kind of a horrible play by just overall or neither of them because Evans never saw the ball, so like that's a problem. Like it's not that he didn't try to like, it's not like that he all of a sudden said, I'm just not going to try to get this jump ball. It's like he never saw the ball and Brady threw it up in a 1v1 coverage on an all-out blitz. And you like those odds when you have that size difference. I mean, normally, if they're both jumping for it, the ball hits the turf or it's hitting Evans' hands. It's not hitting the other guys. So really wasn't the worst decision. Just Evans never saw it. And I don't remember the other pick. I can't remember it. But he threw 3. But one thing that I heard someone say is that, you know, people are like, Jameis Winston's fuming right now with a 3-pick game and a win and stuff like that. And because, you know, he got kicked out for throwing 3 picks a game. But it's just been, it's weird that people still constantly question Brady's greatness and just what he brings.
They don't realize it's more than just the stat sheet with Brady.
It's more than stat sheet. It's what happens, and this is what other NFL guys said when, like Pat McAfee said it when he was playing with Peyton Manning, and AJ Hawk said it when he was playing with Aaron Rodgers on their podcast, the Pat McAfee Show, and then there's a couple other guys when they were talking about how they were playing with good quarterbacks, that it changes the entire way everybody does everything when you see a guy like Tom Brady walking around, because you know it's title or bust. And he's setting a precedent that he's already working harder than anyone else in the office and on the field. And you got to try to work just as hard or improve your skills as much as they are. And it just brings, so people always say like, oh, he threw 3 picks and he got lucky. There's just a lot of coincidence follows these guys that are like gods, right? That are these sports just gods. There's always these coincidences that, like you said, Tom Brady didn't play the best game, but his team got the win. I mean, all of a sudden, maybe all those practice reps that the defense had this extra intensity that they didn't have with other quarterbacks in the past. You know, it's just like you said, it's the intangible, like, not, you didn't say intangible, it's just what extra they bring. It's those intangible things that a guy like him brings, or a guy like Aaron Rodgers brings to the table, that the second they walk in, you know that this is a championship caliber team with just that one guy being on the team.
Well, and that's the thing, is you just look at it and
huge.
think, this is Tampa Bay last year, and this is Tampa Bay with Tom Brady, and now you're in the Super Bowl. I mean, you went from being a team that was literally a joke to being a Super Bowl team.
And then people say they like added a boatload. Like they added Gronk, who's an unbelievable blocker. They added a quarterback, obviously, in Tom Brady. And they added a running back who really didn't do much almost the whole year. The other thing that people forgot that Mike Evans and Chris Godwin were already there, and
they don't think about the fact that Tampa Bay's defense never stood a chance with Jameis Winston turning over the ball at the rate he was throughout the entire season.
I believe 30 picks and like 11 fumbles.
Yeah, it's insane. It's like Tampa Bay's defense has always been known as not a good defense. But really, it was just because they were always on the field.
When they're playing on a 30-yard field, that's not really fair compared to when you're playing on a 70-yard field. Like, even Brady's picks were punts. Like,
right. He knows when it's okay to throw a pick.
A 50-yard ball. Like, the tipped pass was, wound up being in the red zone, unfortunately, for them. But that means Aaron Rodgers still had to go 80 yards.
Right.
These weren't first-play picks.
Yeah, it's not like I'm on my own 20 throwing a pick on the 35, you know, I'm you know what, worst case scenario, it's 3rd down right now and they pick it off and they're on their 15. Okay, well, that's a pretty good punt for us. So, you know,
so, I mean, obviously you don't want to throw a pick in those situations.
Right. But he knows when
it's
worth the risk.
Those risks.
Yes. Those risks are worth it in that situation because it doesn't hurt you that bad, but I just don't understand how many times somebody can do something before you stop like questioning things. Like, how many Super Bowls can Tom Brady go to before you stop questioning how good Tom Brady is? Like, I just don't understand. There's a common denominator here.
50% of the Super Bowls since he's been in the league have been played in by him. Is that right?
Something like that. He's played in like 10.
This is his 20th year in the league.
Yeah, and I think this is his 10th Super Bowl.
And this is his 10th Super Bowl. Just like Jason said, there's a pretty obvious common denominator here. And
everybody wanted to make the argument before that it could be him or Belichick. Well, Belichick's sitting at home, and Tom Brady's preparing for a Super Bowl.
And people said, that there weren't very many suitors for Tom Brady in the offseason, and that Bill Belichick could win with anybody. And Cam Newton is a below-average passer, and Tom Brady had the worst receiving core in the NFL. All of a sudden, you put an average to below-average passer out there, which is what they chose to do because they were like, Jarrett Stidham's going to be our guy, and then they went, no, they can't. They could have easily signed Tom Brady, or maybe Brady didn't want to go back. Who knows? But there was a million quarterbacks on the market, and they said, we're going to choose Cam Newton on an incentive-laden deal, and all of a sudden they go, man, now we have no quarterback or receivers or tight ends. Man, maybe it's our fault.
And then they lost a bunch of their defensive players to COVID and not one to
play.
And not to mention the fact that once
player of the year again.
And then once again, you're talking about a defense that's always on the field because their team sucks.
Yeah, it's like the dude Cam Newton played a full season and threw 6 touchdowns or something like that. Like 6 touchdowns, 14 picks.
Insane.
He ran for 10, but like that's still 16 and 14. That's not a good touchdown to turnover ratio. But just like you said, the common denominator, man is a freak. He just brings greatness with him. The joke is some people are overdoing it and pissing people off, but I think it's awesome that it pisses people off, even though I'm not like a Boston fan, even though I did say I respect their fans. Is they're like, Tom Brady brings greatness with him, and they're talking about how Boston Bruins were good at hockey when the last year he was there, and they went to the title, and then they were good at baseball the last year he was there, or 2 years ago he was there.
Tampa Bay was good at baseball, football,
and then now Tampa was good at all 3 of those sports as well.
Yep.
And people were like, and then Miami went to the finals after they signed him and stuff like that. Like people were just joking about all that stuff, and people were like, now they're giving greatness in other sports because Tom's there. I was like, just shut up, dude. It's just coincidence. It's just funny. It's funny, okay? And then it's just good for him. Good for him really just saying, yeah, you know what, guys, I'm a 6th-round pick. I've always used it as a chip on my shoulder. People get sick of it, but at the same time, it's a good chip to have when literally no one believed in you. 198 guys are better than you, and you turned out to be the greatest player that's ever touched the field. Yeah. There's 198 guys in your draft class better than you, but you were the greatest. But you turned out to be the greatest player that's ever stepped on turf. Grass.
Absolutely insane.
I mean, it's nuts with a guy that had 0 expectations. I mean, guys who are 6th-round quarterbacks don't make teams, and I mean, they make practice squads. They don't make teams unless you're keeping 4 quarterbacks or something. It's just a crazy story, and I've watched YouTube videos and documentaries on it a million times, and it's always fun to watch a guy that was literally, it's not like, Michael Jordan got drafted 3rd overall, LeBron James 1st overall, Kobe Bryant 3rd overall. I mean, this is a guy who was garbage at football. Thought like a lot of teams in the NFL, they're like, he's worth nothing. There are 6 other quarterbacks better than this guy. This guy had a 47.6% completion percentage in college. Let's draft that guy over Tom Brady. And
absolutely insane. Then on the flip side, who he's going to be playing against, the Kansas City Chiefs, just got done beating the Bills, which made us sad.
A slaughter of the Bills.
And that's what sucks, is Josh Allen played pretty decently. Like, he played a pretty good game.
The Bills never got to stop.
I mean, the Bills, Josh Allen went 28 for 48, 287, 2 touchdowns and interception. He ran for 88 yards. He tried to do it all. It just
but a lot of
enough.
Those, and as someone who's a Josh Allen fan, a lot of those garbage time, 48 balls for 286 isn't really good enough, especially in an AFC title. A lot of that was garbage time. He kind of slowed down. Overall, I think that the Bills were definitely the inferior team because they were gifted 6 points on a muffed punt inside the 10. The Chiefs went on a 38-6 run in that game. The Chiefs were literally only stopped in the first possession of the game and then a kneel down later to end the first half before they were stopped again. I mean, they literally scored 38 points in a row, and the only time the Bills stopped them was on a kneel down that went into halftime. And that's just bonkers. I mean, they scored at will. It was an absolute annihilation. I don't think
Travis Kelce had 13 catches.
Most people did not. Like, people saw the Chiefs winning. I saw the Chiefs winning. I went with my heart.
We both said that we thought the Chiefs would win, but we wanted
Josh Allen. We both went with our heart, and I don't think either of us.
Tyreek Hill had 172 receiving yards.
And that guy turned a 7-yard catch into a 71-yard gain because he's so much faster than everybody else. But I don't think either of us saw the annihilation that game was. Because, I mean, they were gifted. So they kicked a field goal, and then they were gifted a touchdown, and then they missed the extra point. Nice. And and then they just rolled them 38-6, and you're like, oh my God, it's 38-15. This is a blowout. But when you really looked at it, is they gifted them 7 points and still annihilated them. That was as impressive of a game as the Chiefs have ever played, and they did it 2 weeks before another Super Bowl. I mean, in my opinion, like when I watched Patrick Mahomes, like they went down 24-0 to the Texans and stuff like that, and then they came back and won. But what they did after going down 9-0 to the Bills was the Bills had no chance. They slaughtered them.
Yeah, absolutely, and it does suck because I mean, you look at it as Cole Beasley, I believe, didn't he play with like a? I know he's hurt. I can't remember what it was now.
Yeah, he had a pretty major injury.
Yeah, and then the little bit of a
broken fibula.
That's right. That's it. Yeah. And then I thought it was kind of cool. Did you see the image of Stephon Diggs standing out on the field watching the Chiefs celebrate them going to the Super Bowl? So that's kind of like one of those cool moments where it's like he wants that. So he's watching them and saying that I need that to be me.
I know you don't watch college football, but there was a guy who did that in college football, a Cincinnati Bearcat, who they finished the year like 12-1 or 11-1, and their only loss was their bowl game to Georgia. And he stood outside. He did the same thing. He stood outside and watched the entire Bulldog ceremony from the end zone, and just stood there in full pads and gear, and just like Stephon Diggs did. And they were like, these guys, and then they're saying the exact thing about Stephon Diggs that they said about that guys. They go, these guys are the scariest guys in football next year. Like, Diggs is already a freak, and they go, this guy for Cincinnati in college is going to be a nutcase.
I do think that the Bills, a big struggle they had, besides just the fact they couldn't stop them, is the fact that outside of Josh Allen's 88 rushing yards, Devin Singletary rushed for 17. TJ Yeldon rushed for 15. Isaiah McKenzie rushed for 9. So they got like 41 yards of rushing outside of Josh Allen. But rushing controls a game. Like, if you can run the ball, it controls the game. It gives your defense a break. It gives your offense options. It makes it so Josh Allen doesn't need to throw 50 times. You know?
That's how you beat Kansas City, because giving them the ball more times is not a good way to beat Kansas City. You got to give them the ball 5 times.
Yeah, you need your drives to last. And if you can't run the ball, it's very hard to last. And the Chiefs have a respectable defense. The Chiefs had a respectable defense. So I get that, but you needed to keep them on the field as long as possible.
But that's what the Bills do.
Right.
When they played the previous game against the Ravens, their first 20 plays were passes.
Yeah, their running backs are just not producing for them. Which is unfortunate. They've got some talent,
but they don't even
not.
Try to fake it. I mean, like I said, against the Ravens, I know the Ravens' defense was absolutely dominant, and it was just nuts in the 2 games they played in the postseason. But they didn't even try. They walked out of the tunnel and said, "We're throwing the first 20 plays. We're throwing the ball." Like, they didn't even fake a run. They were just like, "We are throwing this bad boy," and then they scored 17 points. So at the same time, it's also play calling, but obviously their running backs. Situation is something to be desired. I think they would have enjoyed Frank Gore, who is like literally 98 years old at this point. But they let him go in the offseason, and they trusted this young guy who was their third down, pass catching back. And then they realized
Singletary's a stud. He just isn't producing. And then they had whatever the other
Yeldon
guy.
Out of Jacksonville.
No, Yeldon's not the other guy though. Zach Moss. Zach Moss is a talent too. They're not coming up with plays that those guys can use their skills, because both Zach Moss and Singletary are very talented running backs, but something's not clicking there because they're not producing, and they need to figure out a way that they can blend that offense so Josh Allen doesn't have to carry that team on his legs and his arm. Like, he's literally the heart and soul of that offense right now, and you need to make it more diverse than that if you're really going to be successful in the NFL.
Because as you can see, like, the Chiefs
at least have a threat in the backfield. Like, when you're not even threatening in the backfield, it's completely different, because it's like, okay, well, we know they're throwing. At least threaten.
Like, they should have gone after someone like Le'Veon Bell after he was released, but they can't. I mean, you're right. I mean, they can't do what they did. I mean, what they did was
they played Madden.
It's not okay.
They played Madden in real life.
Allen played, like I said, Allen's stats were overall solid. Like, when you look at them on paper, just kind of how big, like, Ben Roethlisberger's stats were okay when you looked at them on paper in that Cleveland game, like, because he threw for so many yards. Yeah, there were 4 picks in there, but he threw 4 touchdowns as well. Like, and he had 500 yards. But overall, he just didn't play very well. I mean, he started getting the ball when, they started playing that two-man zone. He started picking it apart and gaining yards late. I mean, overall, it was an annihilation. Allen didn't play good enough. They were just outmatched. I don't know what it was, outmatched. I mean, outcoached. I mean, they just got dominated, and that happens. I mean, the Chiefs are a superior team. And
I think when I look at Allen, though, and when I see that their running backs combined for 41 yards, that means the guy's throwing a lot. I mean, he threw 48 times, and he only threw one pick.
How many carries did they have?
He only threw one pick, so you got to give him some respect for the fact that he's not turning the ball over. But it just wasn't. It just didn't work. Like it just didn't. 7 carries for Josh Allen, 6 for Singletary, 3 for Yeldon, 2 for.
So it's 9 for 41. That's not even bad. That's over a 4 yard. That's over a 4 yard to carry. Clip. So it's clearly just didn't give him the ball enough. I mean, maybe 4 yards a carry. That's a first down every 3 plays, right? So I mean, they were doing something right, but they just didn't run the ball. I'm a big fan of Josh Allen, huge fan of Josh Allen.
Yeah, there's definitely something going on there. That's
he didn't
not
play
right.
good enough. The play calling wasn't good enough. Like he played good enough late, but he didn't play good the whole game. Play calling wasn't good enough. Defense was obviously not even close to good enough. And the better team won, and we're gonna watch the 2 best teams, and
so that's
in the world playing the Super Bowl.
As we move into the Super Bowl talk, it is really interesting because you've got Tom Brady, who's in his 10th Super Bowl, as we mentioned before, and now you've got Patrick Mahomes going for back-to-back Super Bowls.
This would have been cool if it would have been his first.
Well, this is kind of cool though because you've kind of got like Tom Brady on the end of his look how many Super Bowls I've won, look how dominant I was as a quarterback, and now you got Patrick Mahomes who almost looks like he's starting his dynasty, and so it's kind of cool to see Brady on the way out on his career of Super Bowls, and now you got Patrick Mahomes who's just starting by possible back-to-back now. I mean, it's just kind of cool to think about it like that you've got a guy that like Tom Brady who played in a Super Bowl half the times he played, and now you got Patrick Mahomes who's shown he can repeatedly get to the Super Bowl, which a lot of really good quarterbacks have shown that that's really hard to do. And so he's already showing he can get to the Super Bowl multiple times, and it just makes it interesting.
Only been once.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that you've got a guy that made it so often, and now a new guy that looks like he could possibly be the next one to make it to the Super Bowl very frequently.
Do a 3 out of 4 thing, just like Brady.
Yeah, so you never know. I mean, it's going to make for a really interesting game. I mean, if we get into our picks here, this is a tough one, but I don't know.
I don't think we can do picks. We don't know health of certain players, and
I'm still picking somebody anyways. I don't care.
2 weeks ahead.
I'm still picking somebody.
I even said I thought we agreed when we were talking Super Bowl, but whatever.
Oh, we're gonna ramble a little bit. I don't know. I think my decision's the same no matter what here, honestly.
Yeah.
And my statement is that I think how many points Tampa Bay's defense gave up to Green Bay, the Chiefs are going to score more than that. I don't think Tom Brady can go out and throw 3 picks against the Chiefs and win. I wouldn't be surprised if the Chiefs get another one. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Chiefs win this game. I just wouldn't. The way the Tampa Bay has played, don't get me wrong, they're a good team, but I think the Chiefs are a lot better than anybody they've played. And that's my statement for the Super Bowl. That's my little statement. I don't know if you agree with it. Don't know if you think. Maybe you want to wait to share your opinion. That's just where I'm at. I
know who. I mean,
I just think the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are a lot better than anyone Tampa Bay has played, and I think that the Chiefs are going to show up in that game.
I think these are the 2 best teams, and I think I would have been less convinced until what I saw happen on Sunday, and what the Chiefs did on Sunday. It was just incredible television. It was an annihilation of
a good football team.
Of a a top 3 or 4 football team. I mean, that is what happens, and I am not over it. And maybe I might be a little less convinced next week. I mean,
maybe the shock will come down and we'll have a more realistic talk next week. But
if Brady,
but that's always the thing. Brady is always the X factor. Brady is the Super Bowl
I'm talking
king.
about turnovers. Turnovers is the X factor, and the Chiefs don't turn the ball over. Patrick Mahomes doesn't turn the ball over. I do think he will turn the ball over one time in this game, but I don't know if one time is going to be enough. And I think Tom Brady's going to play perfect, and I don't think he will. Not at 43. I think this is another win. I think this defense is too good. Chris Jones lives in backfields. A game like this would be better for like a Rams because the Chiefs just lost their, they lost their left tackle and they don't have this like God's tier offensive line. But the Bucks, I don't think have enough to take advantage of it. I think they're really good on the defensive end, like the defensive line side, but not enough. And I really just think the Chiefs. I think this matchup, fares well for the Chiefs, and I just don't think. I mean, the Tampa's have to play perfect, and the Chiefs don't have to play perfect.
Yeah, we can dig deep into that next week as well, but just kind of wanted to get a little starter on that, just to see where we were at. Maybe by next week something changes. Maybe Tom Brady comes out and has like a workout video or something that fires me up. I don't know. So
my favorite thing is the travel to the game. They're like, instead of it being the whole week before, both teams aren't going to travel till the Friday before, and the Chiefs are actually doing it till Saturday. It's like, why are you talking about traveling? Tampa's literally going home.
and this is the first time too. This is the first time a team has ever played at home.
That's fun.
So that's interesting.
Matter. It will never really matter in the Super Bowl because like the fans there are like all celebrities, so it's not like
so it'll be interesting.
It's not like it's filled with like Bucks fans, so.
Right? Yep, those tickets are expensive, but that's where we'll stop football and we'll talk more Super Bowl next week. But that does get us started here on the Last Inning Touchdown, the Lit Podcast. Moving on to a little bit of Overwatch League here on the Last Inning Touchdown Podcast, where you can find us on Twitter at Last Inning TD, on Spotify, on YouTube, on Google Podcasts, and a couple other places as well. But so we did have a little bit of action over the weekend with some Overwatch teams playing in the next cup. It was streamed a little bit. It was kind of hard to. I did find out. It was
streamed.
Yeah, it was. You kind of had to use some back doors to watch it live. But then there was a couple people on Twitch that had some partnerships that they actually got to do watch parties for it and stuff, which was kind of cool. But so I'm going to start with a statement here because I'm a little shook after this last weekend. As a Dallas Fuel fan, I watched them get 3-0'd by the Dragons, and then I watched them get 3-0'd by the Charge. And don't get me wrong, they played competitively in all these maps. Like they did. They played pretty well in all these maps. My struggle is that Dallas has always played well and never won the game for the entirety of Dallas being in existence. They've always played well and just never been able to win the game. And my concern was it looked like all weekend that Xe was saying, I'm going to carry this team to a win, and just couldn't do it. I mean, that's what it really felt like, is that Xe was playing out of his mind, trying to do everything for that team, and it just didn't work out. And don't get me wrong, obviously we know the Dragons are good, but it does concern me when you lose to the Charge, who I don't really think are, I don't...
The Charge was runners-up, though, but they lost both their DPS, right?
So, I mean, Seoul beat the Dragons 3-1, and then Seoul beat the Charge 3-1.
And then both those teams beat Dallas.
So that's three of the four teams, because Dallas was the fourth team, that I guess on paper you could say were all better than the Fuel. And so that's what's rough, is because you went into this with this high expectation that Fuel could be a top contending team. But then I have that little side of me that does say, like, this team was literally just put together. They may not have a lot of true experience playing together. Maybe this meta isn't, the best thing in the world for them. Because I noticed, they had some weird comps, which we can talk a little bit about the next cup meta here in a sec. But I was just a little concerned to see the Fuel not win a map.
Especially since...
to not win a map.
Especially since, it's considered a North American dominated league right now. Like, everyone's talking about how all the best, Asian, players, Korean players and stuff, like a lot of the best ones moved to America, including a guy on Dallas, right? Their main tank, right? So was Shanghai's main tank, right?
Fearless,
So yeah. So I mean, you're considering them the weaker side of the world, and they just got rolled. I mean, played competitive, but map count looks rough.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing is that I've been watching
concern.
the Fuel play for years, and every single matchup they played competitive. I watched them play competitively with the Shock last year, but at the end of the day, playing competitively with every team but losing in the end of the day doesn't matter. Like, if you lose every game but you play competitively, well, you're still not a good team then.
Yeah, like but Dallas last year was confusing. It's all of a sudden it's like, oh, they're gonna catch fire, and then they just
it's like Dallas plays well against the Shock, and then plays bad against the Outlaws.
And then Houston and Dallas play like the worst 5-game match of all time. It's like, how did Dallas the week before play the Shock and give them everything they had, and then the only reason they beat Houston is because Houston blew it. It's like it's just weird to see that happen.
Yeah.
So
it was also interesting, though, so this will kind of transition us into talking about what the next Cup meta looked like a little bit. So the Fuel did run kind of like a not meta comp, I guess, when they played the Charge. They were out there with orisa Rein, so they were playing double shield while the Charge were playing Rein Zarah. So it does look like that this current meta, as much as people have complained about like who is meta and this and that, like obviously the big complaints are Ball is too good right now, and Sigma was too good for a while, and it does seem like that it's very map dependent for the pros right now what is meta, because they're playing Rein on one map, but then they're playing Ball Diva on the other map. So when they played,
I think it's game mode based.
Yeah, so it's based. Right, well, maps and game modes are hand in hand.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So I mean, the two metas that I saw basically consistently were Ball Diva, and then an Echo with a flanker, so like a Tracer Sombra, and then Zen Brig, and then you had your typical Rush Brawl comp of like Rein Zarah, Rein somebody, and then Lucio Bap. They're doing Lucio Baptiste, and then they were running May and Symmetra. Now, I know Exy for a little bit of it was popping out the McCree because he was trying to hard carry. So he was pulling out McCree, trying to hard carry with some McCree and stuff like that. So there were definitely times that wasn't truly what it was, but a lot of matches started with one of those two comps that I kind of mentioned. They may have changed as the game went on because people were trying to make a difference on a different hero and this and that, but I'm all for. I don't know. It's tough. It's a weird combo watching Ball Diva for sure, and I know that you hate watching Ball. Ball is definitely not one of my favorite heroes to watch. Playing against him doesn't bother me, which we've kind of discussed. But like watching him, yeah, he's definitely not. I want to say that like the tough part I had with the Ball Diva, like the Ball Diva, Echo, Tracer, Zen, Brig, was like how like all over the place the fights were. Like it was just like chaos. Like it just didn't feel like an organized team fight. It felt like people were everywhere, and like there were just fights all over the place, and it just didn't really feel like the true team play of Overwatch when you're throwing all those it felt so random, really.
I think just there's certain characters that are more fun to watch. And obviously in the meta to play with or against, and I think that's where some people are like, man, watching Brig and playing against Brig is annoying, and I think another character, and this is a character that Jason knows I despise, is Ball. I think watching Ball and playing against Ball just suck. I think watching it is incredibly boring and just stupid, and I've ever been like, and I know, okay, cool, it takes some skill, all that stuff, blah, 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 but it's just never been something that like piques my interest. When Ball's meta, I'm not like, oh man, what I'm really excited to do is see a good, ball slam or a boop or something like that. Like, no one really cares. I just care about, enjoyable metas to watch. I watched a ton last year. I did watch a little bit of the NXT on mute because I don't speak Korean. And
I also had it muted.
Yeah, and So I watched a little bit of it, not as much as he did, because I missed most of the start of it. But it was just, I don't know. Different metas are better to watch and some aren't, and we're in a weird state of Overwatch where it actually seems like there's not that many OP heroes, which I know sounds like crazy. I know Echo's considered pretty OP and Ball's considered annoying, but I really don't think there's like that many crazy OP heroes that a lot of things can be ran or most things can be ran. And I think that's kind of, I guess, good for the game that there's a lot of diversity, but at the same time, like you need it to be watchable and like a big entertainment factor, and that's what what like that Genji meta and all that stuff did, and that's why they wanted to get rid of the bunker buddy meta because it would just sit there, with an Orisa Sigma and
that's
sit behind
absolutely
shields and
the
not
thing.
move.
Like
And they
exactly
have
what you're
to try
saying.
to make
Like
a
this
good
is
balance.
at the end of the day, like this is an entertainment business, and if what your players are playing is not interesting, people want to see the big play. And when it comes to tanks that can make a big play, people want to see the 5-man shatter. They don't want to watch Ball push someone off a map. They want to see. They want to
segment the map by putting.
They want to
down.
see a huge guy swinging a hammer and killing 4 or 5 people. They don't want to watch Ball spin to win on the map.
Yeah, and
they don't want to watch Ball just drop his. They don't want to just watch him drop his mines on the map, and everyone has to shoot them instead of each other. That's just it's not what anyone wants to watch.
And then no one wants to see, and I know that I love Zen, but no one wants to see the Sigma ult Zen combo where Sigma ults and then your Zen pops his trans, so no one dies. Like it's just people want to see like these different metas and different things that are exciting to come. The big play, and just like you said, no one wants to see May throw a thing and the whole thing freeze. No one wants to see that. No one wants to see Ball drop mines and segment part of the map. People want to see, exciting plays.
Well, and that's just like it's even
for some
Baptiste,
reason
his
dropping
lamp.
his ult on his self and 3-piecing a team, or Ana hitting a nade, or taking out both supports by herself to resave.
And it's just like nobody wants to see Baptiste drop his lamp, and then the other team can't kill anybody. Yeah, nobody, and then nobody can kill him. Like that's not interesting, and that's that's
intelligent and it's smart and it's good gameplay on them. But it's all about, just like Jason said, it's an entertainment business.
And that's where it comes down to it too. Is where what's interesting is like one of the biggest complaints about current Overwatch is all of the crowd control, all the stuns, all the the zoning. It's just like it's boring. It's not fun. It's frustrating. I mean, when you're Reinhardt and you walk through a choke and you get Maywalled behind you, then you get flashed by McCree, stunned by Brig, slammed by Ball, hit by a rock by Sigma. It's like, well, I'm dead. Like, and my team never even saw me because they were behind the wall. It's just, that's not fun to watch or play. And so I think that they really do when they're moving forward. And don't get me wrong, if you've watched any of this podcast, I have been a big proponent on not complaining about characters and not complaining about metas and whatever. New characters are OP, this and that. Because honestly, some of my least favorite characters are original characters. I mean, people complain about the new characters all the time. I hate Symmetra. I think Symmetra's BS. The fact that you can throw three turrets across the map and do literally nothing, and then build an ult that splits the map in half, so that nobody can hurt your team. Not only is that boring, it takes absolutely no skill at all, and it's stupid. And I just don't get it. I mean, it's just.
She has to aim now. But we didn't have to aim.
All right,
and she would lock like Moira.
But I'm going to relax on who I hate, because this is what I think the devs really need to as they move forward. Instead of, because I feel like this is what they've done. I feel like so far through Overwatch, they have said, this is a hole that people have exploited. Let's make a character that fills a role that stops people from doing that. So Dive became super OP. So what'd they do? They made Brig, who could counter Dive as a support. Instead of doing that, instead of trying to constantly rework how the game is played by making new heroes, by nerfing, by buffing, take all of your heroes and figure out ways, how can I make this hero the absolute most fun to play and to watch? And end it at that. As long as it's balanced, fun to watch and fun to play, people are going to be happy. You don't need to counter, oh my God, Winston Diva is diving on everybody and it's unreal. Because you know what happened? Winston Diva dive was super OP. And then everybody started using Brig to counter. So they created Brig to counter. And Reaper was countering Winston. Okay, great. You have counters. I understand you need counters to gameplay. But do you know what they did? Then they created Ball because they said, well, Winston doesn't have enough health to survive the dive and to do enough for his team. So let's make a guy who has a little more sustainability who can also dive. So literally they said dive was OP. They created a character to help prevent dive and then created a new character to bring back dive. It's like, stop doing that. Just say, what could be the most fun thing to add? What could be the most exciting thing to watch? And let's add it. It doesn't need to be, let's solve the problem of Overwatch. The problem of Overwatch is people are not having that much fun. People aren't having that much fun playing. They're not having that much fun watching. Stop trying to solve, how can I make a dive hero? How can I make a counter to dive hero? How can I counter this hero with this hero? That's not how you should create a character. Say, what would be a really cool looking character? And now what abilities could we give him that people would say, man, I want to learn to play and have fun on that character? Simple as that. You know why there's so many hardcore Genji mains? Because Genji looks sweet and he's fun as hell to play. Simple as that. Genji mains will ride or die with Genji regardless of the meta, and everyone will hate them because they ride or die regardless of the meta. They may not be good on the meta at all, but they still ride or die that character because they have fun as hell playing it, and the character's cool as shit. That's how you need to make all your characters. And nobody thinks it's cool to have a stun and to have a crowd control type ult. You could say that Reinhardt's is a crowd control ult, but Reinhardt's ult is like big game pop off. It's not like everybody's stuck in one place and then we just casually kill them all like May. Oh, they're all frozen. Now let me walk up and one shot them in the head with my icicle. It's like big time shatter, swing my big ass hammer, my team pops off, let's move. You know, it's like Reinhardt only has one chance to really make big plays, and that's on his shatter. I mean, he has other opportunities to be big. He's big on other things, but like as an individual player, his only time to really shine is on a big shatter. And it can be countered by a lot of things in the game. So it's just, they need to change their perspective. Stop trying to solve problems with characters and just make them fun. They need to go back to making characters fun. Simple as that. That is my, I feel like every single week when we get to Overwatch, I just rant about something. That's literally what it is.
You are like, you always dominate Overwatch. But you do have more to say, but you do always do it on
This is the other thing though. Like, you have to keep in mind that I follow a ton of people who play Overwatch, whether it be casual, competitive, streamers, whatever. I follow a bunch of people in the Overwatch community. I follow Overwatch on Reddit. All I see all day long is people complaining about Overwatch. That's all I see. So I get to this podcast once a week and I get to blow off some steam about all the negativity I see because I love the freaking game. And obviously, no matter how much people want to deny it, they love the game too because they wouldn't have put 8 billion hours into it over the last 5 years. You wouldn't unless you love the game. But the aspects that everyone loves are heroes being fun to play. That's all they need to make. Make more fun to play heroes. Simple as that. Quit worrying about everything else. That's my Overwatch League rant.
Yeah, I mean I brought this up before. Siegel said this, I believe. He said that Overwatch is a game that a lot of people are complaining about, but the main people complaining are the ones that have 10,000 hours in the game. If you want to have fun for 10,000 hours, buy Overwatch. And, you know, I can definitely go on and play a boatload of characters and have a good amount of time. I've got hundreds of hours in Overwatch between PS4 and PC. And
Overwatch is the only game that over the last 5 years I continuously go back to. It's simple as that. Other games get pushed to the side and they're gone. 2016 is when it came out, so nice. Coming up on 5 years. So, I mean, there is no other game in my library that I have continuously touched for 5 years. Because you know me, I am ADHD video games out my butt.
Oh my god, it's annoying.
ADHD out the butt for when it comes to video games. But Overwatch, I will cycle it. Like, I will be like, you know what, I can't play it right now. It's frustrating. When Rein had to constantly play against Reaper May, couldn't do it. I couldn't play. But I keep coming back because I do love the game. And I think that that's how you're going to make more people love the game, is they're going to find characters that are fun as hell to play, characters they think they're cool. And I mean, let's be honest, like, is there any game that truly has the culture that Overwatch has, though? Like, outside the toxicity, I mean, think about it. You've got competitive Overwatch. You've got casual Overwatch. You've got people that love the arcade story mode sides of Overwatch. You've got people that you have a huge community of people that cosplay Overwatch. You've got people that love Overwatch so much they're freaking jerking off to it. I mean, Overwatch is absolutely insane, the amount of communities that are involved in it.
You didn't say that.
I did. I had to. Hot take.
Oh,
Hot
no.
take.
Why would
you love it.
that?
You love it. But seriously though, I mean, Overwatch hits so it's available to so many people and accessible by so many people, and yet all you see is negativity. That's all you see. I mean, honestly, in all honesty, how many games have as many females playing it as Overwatch? I bet it's not a lot, especially like first-person shooter style games. I bet you there are very few games.
Does every first-person shooter have a Mercy?
Well, but that's what I'm saying, though. Like, they have made themselves accessible, and a lot of females started at Mercies, but over years they've learned to play other characters too. But Mercy was a great entry point for them, though, because they didn't need the first-person shooter skills that they may have never played before. Yeah. You know, because a lot of girls have never had interest in shooter games. They just haven't. A lot of girls haven't. Now, don't get me wrong. There's always girls out there that do. And there are girls that have always been just as much gamers as guys, and they don't get the credit they deserve. But there's a lot of girls out there that have always been more of your, I'm going to play The Sims, I'm going to play Zoo Tycoon, I'm going to play more casual type games. And that's great. That's the biggest misconception, is that you have to play a first-person shooter to be a gamer. That is a huge misconception.
Yep.
But Overwatch really, to me, is the first game that I have seen that has been embraced by everyone. And I think the reason so many people are so salty, and maybe this is the final take of the night, and maybe this is where we just stop, because this might be the nail in the head to everything I've got on. Overwatch, to me, maybe the reason deep down everyone is so toxic and so salty about Overwatch is because there are so many people that love it so deeply, and they just are so hurt by the fact that they don't think it's a good game right now. Yes. They want it so badly to keep being successful that it hurts them. They want it so badly that it brings out so much toxicity when they don't agree with the direction it's going. So, final statement, the summary: make fun as hell heroes, make them cool, stop filling voids in the game, and just make more cool heroes. That's all anybody wants. People want cool heroes that are fun to play and fun to watch. Simple as that. May. Logan, I swear to God, if I
had to be, dude. We're flipping roles right now.
I'm not. It's not.
I texted you something like that the other day.
It's not acceptable.
And I believe you said the same thing.
Don't mention May on my podcast ever again.
We have a May main as a friend, by the way, to make it a little chiller, to make the last name
chill. I'm trying to look a little chiller.
Good one. A little more chill. Yeah, we have a May main as one of our friends. And,
but seriously, Logan, love you, respect your opinions, even if you mention May, just to piss me off. But I think that's really where Overwatch is. The community has a deep, 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 deep love for it, and all they need to do is make fun stuff. Simple as that. So we're gonna go ahead and wrap up the Last Inning Touchdown podcast with the side of Logan's head.
I'm trying to find it. Couldn't find it. I was trying to find what the conversation we were having.
Yeah, so we're going to go ahead and wrap up the podcast here. Thank you guys so much for supporting us. Please make sure you like, subscribe to YouTube. Comment down below if there's any topics you want us to talk about in the future, any questions you have. Make sure you follow us on Spotify. You can find all of the places we're on anchor.fm/lastInningTouchdown. Man, it's been fun. We appreciate your guys' support. Thank you so much. A little shout out here. We did hit 100 listens through Anchor. So we have 100 all-time listeners on Anchor. We're doing pretty decently on YouTube as well. So thank you guys so much. And we will see you guys next time.
Bye.